conversation previously about immigrants to this country and the debt that we owe. We owe debt to this man and to his family, and hopefully we're now repaying that in these. The second hero was Jamada, that's Lieutenant Mir Dast. He was born in 1874 in the northwest frontier area of Pakistan. And at the age of 20, he joined the British Indian Army, and he was there as a regular in action in the northwest frontier and Waziristan. And he was brought over to Flanders in March 1915 as part of another large contingent of Indian soldiers filling the gaps. And he was, again, in the Lahore Division, and he was awarded his Victoria Cross for the second Battle of Ypres. They'd been ordered to counterattack in April, and despite the losses, Mir Dast and others managed to get close to the German trenches. And the Germans then released chlorine gas, and many soldiers either retreated or killed or were gassed, as indeed one of my grandfathers was. He was a small number of British and Indian troops who stayed and held their position until nightfall when they were ordered to withdraw. His citation said, "For most conspicuous bravery and great ability at Ypres on 26th of April 1915, when he led his platoon with great gallantry during the attack and afterwards, and collected various parties of the regiment." No British officers were left by this time. He was the sole officer, and kept them under his command until the retirement was ordered. Jamada Mir Dast subsequently, on this day, displayed remarkable courage in helping to carry 8 British and Indian officers into safety while exposed to very heavy fire. He also was wounded and went to Brighton, and then again the King visited him and presented him with his medal. And he died in 1945 in Peshawar.
दिल्ली गेट, जो कि लाहौर के 13 दरवाज़ों में से एक दरवाज़ा है, ये तीसरे मुग़ल शहंशाह अकबर ने 1600 में तामीर किया था। इन 13 दरवाज़ों ने शहर लाहौर तक रसाई फराहम की, जो एक वक्त में इसी मुग़ल बादशाह के ज़रिए 30 फीट ऊंची किले की दीवार में बंद थी। इसका नाम दिल्ली गेट इसलिए रखा गया क्योंकि इसका रुख दिल्ली की तरफ है, जो मुग़ल सल्तनत का दारुल हुकूमत था। और तारीख में एक वक्त ये दरवाज़ा शहर लाहौर का मरकज़ी दरवाज़ा रहा। शहर में तिजारत का ये वाहिद मरकज़ था। मुग़ल और दूसरे हुक्मरान शहर में दाखिल होने और अजीम शाही किले तक जाने के लिए इस रास्ते का इस्तेमाल करते थे, और इस दरवाजे को लाहौर के किले से जोड़ने वाला रास्ता रॉयल ट्रेल कहलाता है। आम दरवाजे और तमाम मुसाफिर एक ही गेट इस्तेमाल करते थे। इस दरवाजे के बाहर मुहाफिज खड़े रहते थे, दरवाजे को तुलुए आफ्ताब के वक्त खोल दिया जाता था और गुरूबे आफ्ताब के वक्त बंद कर दिया जाता था। हेड गार्ड्स की इजाज़त के बगैर किसी को गुरूबे आफ्ताब के बाद शहर में दाखिल होने की इजाज़त नहीं थी। ये शहर अब गुरूबे आफ्ताब के वक्त बंद होने वाला शहर नहीं रहा। दिल्ली गेट ने तारीख के मुख्तलिफ औकात में कई अदवार देखे, खास तौर पर जब हुकूमतें बदली। मुगल अहद के दौरान ये सबसे अहम दरवाज़ा था और ये रॉयल सिटी के इस्तकबालिया गेट की हैसियत से जाना जाता था। जब बरतानवी हुक्मरानों ने इक़्तिदार संभाला तो इसे मजिस्ट्रेट की अदालत में तब्दील कर दिया गया। इसके कमरे छोटे छोटे जेल और मुकामी पुलिस स्टेशन थे। तकसीम के बाद एक लड़कियों का स्कूल बनाया गया था जो अब भी मौजूद है। बरे सगीर में बरतानवी हुक्मरानों के दौर में दरवाजे का ढांचा तब्दील कर दिया गया। शहर के दरवाज़ों को अंग्रेज़ों ने 1800 में ख़त्म कर दिया। बाद अज़ां 1900 की दहाई के अवाइल में मुग़ल फ़न तामीर के साथ मखलूत नौ आबादियाती तर्ज के दरवाजे दोबारा बनाए गए थे जो कि अकबर आज़म ने तामीर करवाए थे। जब दोबारा तामीर किया गया तो गेट का मुकाम मुंतकिल कर दिया गया था। मुग़ल फ़न तामीर से ये बात वाज़ेह होती है कि मुग़ल ख़ास तौर पर तवाज़ुन के मालिक थे और अगर हम मुग़ल फ़न तामीर के तर्ज पर अमल करते हैं तो वज़ीर खान की अज़ीमुश्शान मस्जिद गेट से दिखाई देती थी, लेकिन अब ऐसा नहीं है। सैलाब के दौरान शहर के मंजर में मुतादिद तब्दीलियों के साथ बरतानवियों के ज़रिए शहर को नए सिरे से तब्दील किया गया और मुकामात मुंतकिल हो गए। अगर इस शहर के दूसरे दरवाज़ों से मुवाजना किया जाए तो ये गेट का ढांचा इंतहाई दिलचस्प और अनोखा है। ये एक 2 मंजिला दरवाज़ा है जिसमें तकरीबन 12 कमरे हैं, जिनमें इस वक्त स्कूल भी मौजूद है। इस दरवाजे से लाहौर के किले जाने वाली पगडंडी में शाही हमाम, वज़ीर खान मस्जिद, सुनहरी मस्जिद, मरियम ज़मानी मस्जिद, आसिफ जां की हवेली और फिर आखिरकार किले और इस जैसी कई आलमी यादगारें भी मौजूद हैं। बहुत से मशहूर बाज़ार भी यहाँ मौजूद हैं, जिनमें अकबरी मंडी, कैसरा बाज़ार, अवान मार्केट, आज़म क्लॉथ मार्केट और कश्मीरी बाज़ार शामिल हैं। दिल्ली गेट से अंदर दाखिल होते ही बाएं जानिब एक तरफ शाही हमाम है जो कि कारीगरी का एक हसीन इम्तिजाज है और दूसरी तरफ अकबरी गेट का अहाता शुरू होता है।
Third Pakistani hero from 1916 was Naik, that's a corporal, Shah Ahmad Khan. He was a corporal at the time of this, but he later became a captain, and he served the 89th Punjabis. In fact, he was a Punjabi Muslim born in 1879 in Rawalpindi, and the 89th Punjabis were part of the 1st Battalion of the Baluchi Regiment. And Victoria Cross was the most conspicuous bravery This time in Mesopotamia, which is present-day Iraq. It was a world war. It wasn't just in Flanders. He was serving in Iraq, and he was in charge of a machine gun which was covering the gaps in the line very close to the enemy's trench. His citation says, he was in charge of a machine gun section in an exposed position in front of and covering a gap in our new line. Then, that's worth saying, these citations are written by his commanding officer and somebody who knew what he had done. So there was the gap in our line within 150 yards of the enemy's entrenched position. He beat off 3 counterattacks and worked his gun single-handed after all his men, except for 2 belt fillers, had become casualties. For 3 hours, he held the gap under very heavy fire until it was made secure. When his gun was knocked out by hostile fire, he and his 2 belt fillers held their ground with rifles until ordered to withdraw. With 3 men sent to assist him, he then brought back his gun, ammunition, and 1 severely wounded man unable to walk. Finally, he himself returned and removed all remaining arms and equipment except for 2 shovels. But for his great gallantry and determination, a line must have been penetrated by the enemy. That is an incredible story, that he went back for everything except for 2 shovels. Unbelievable. He later achieved the rank of Subedar, which is the equivalent of a captain, and he died in 1947 in his ancestral village of Takhiti in Pakistan. These were the kind of heroes that the British Indian Army produced, and these are men who even today are remembered in the present day Pakistan Army. There were, as I said, there were 6 other Victoria Crosses awarded to the Indian Army and 2 to the Nepalese. The Nepalese Gurkhas and the Sikhs from the British Indian Army are part of the legends of the British Army, and they are hugely respected. And it is the actions of these kinds of men that led to that kind of respect. So, we had 1.3 million people from the subcontinent who took part in the war. Some of them were soldiers, some of them were labourers. And of those, some 74,000 were killed in various parts of the world. As I said, some of them with unknown graves. Theirs was sacrifice. When we come along to the Second World War, where even more people from South Asia took part, and it was even more of a global war. At the start of that war, there were 200,000 people in the British Indian Army. By the end of the war, there were 2.5 million. This was the biggest volunteer army the world has ever seen. Nobody forced these. They were not conscripted like so many other people in so many other parts of the world. They were not conscripted. They volunteered to serve and to fight. And again, we owe them a huge debt of gratitude. Although 87 were killed during that time, and there were another 18 Victoria Crosses and George Crosses awarded. The George Cross is the civilian equivalent of Victoria Cross, so somebody who's not actually in combat who won a George Cross, which is held in the same high regard as a Victoria Cross. So they served around the world. They were the 8th Army at Alamein. In fact, some members of the Indian Army were at Dunkirk and were evacuated in that first great coming together of the spirit of the British, which carried us through the war. They were at Dunkirk. They were in the 8th Army, then the 9th Army